You think you know what a mother is capable of? You see the packed lunches, the band-aids on scraped knees, the gentle hand on a fevered forehead. That is love, but you have never witnessed its shadow. When that love turns venomous, when the very hands meant to cradle become the monsters lurking under the bed. My name is Anya Petrova, and I was that gentle mother. 17 years of devotion. Until the day I found my daughter's diary. Until my trembling fingers traced my daughter's agony, written in letters so frantic they seemed to scream. My husband's prestigious, powerful family had done this to her, to my sweet, quiet Leo. The law, useless. Society, deaf. Let them both rot. They destroyed my children's innocence. Now I will raise their world, brick by brick, dollar by dollar, soul by soul. This is no tantrum. It is pure, unfettered retribution. And I will show you, moment by burning moment, how I took everything from them. The gilded cage of the Hawthorne family was the envy of Hartford, Connecticut. Our home, a sprawling Georgian revival on a private lane, was a monument to old money and older morals. My husband, Alastair Hawthorne, was a federal judge, his smile as polished as his mahogany gavel. His parents, Alina and Silas, were philanthropy icons, their portraits hung in the museum wings they'd funded. Anya was the immigrant success story, the beautiful, cultured wife from Kiev who added just the right touch of exotic elegance without being troublesome. For years, I believed in my own performance. I polished the silver, curated the charity galas, and smiled blankly at my mother-in-law's thinly veiled barbs about my quaint, Eastern European background. My love for my children, Sophia and Leo, was the only true thing in that house of mirrors. The first crack appeared not with a bang, but with a whisper. Sophia, at 16, stopped playing the violin. The music that once flew from her room, wild and beautiful, died. She retreated, her vibrant spark dimming to a dull ember. When I asked, she'd just shrug, her eyes skittering away from mine. Pressure, Mom. School, you know. I blamed teenage angst. Leo, 2 years younger, became quieter, a shadow flitting through the halls. He jumped at his grandfather Silas's booming voice, a reaction I mistook for respect. The catalyst was a Thursday. Sophia was at a debate tournament. I was stripping her bedsheets, the mundane task a comforting ritual. The diary, a simple leather-bound journal, wasn't hidden. It was tucked between her mattress and box spring, a place of childish secrecy she'd never outgrown. A wave of guilt hit me, but a stronger, primal wave of fear pushed me forward. I opened it. The entries started normally, crushes on classmates, anxiety about calculus. Then, 6 months back, the tone curdled. The handwriting changed, becoming jagged, desperate. Grandmother called me into the study again. A Hawthorne woman is a public commodity, she said. She made me stand for an hour while she critiqued my posture, my diction, and the width of my smile. That Slavic blood makes you coarse, Sophia. We must refine it out. She pinched my waist. Watch the desserts. I am a thing to be sculpted, a defective product. My blood ran cold. Then Leo's name appeared. Leo came to my room crying last night. Grandpa took him to the woodshed after dinner. He said Leo's handshake was limp-wristed. He made him do military-style push-ups until he collapsed, then told him he was a disappointment, that he'd never be a real Hawthorne man. Leo is 14. He's an artist. He hates football. Why can't they see him? The entries descended into a horror I couldn't fathom. Silas's disciplinary sessions became more frequent, more brutal, disguised as building character. Alina's refinement involved private sessions with a deportment coach who, Sophia hinted with terrified ambiguity, made her feel filthy. Alastair knew. The diary stated it plainly. I tried to tell Dad. He looked at me over his glasses and said, "Your grandfather is molding you for greatness. And don't exaggerate, Sophia. It's unbecoming." He chose his father over me. The final entry from the night before was a single line, scrawled in a panic. "Grandpa says it's my turn in the woodshed tonight. I can't. I'd rather die." The room spun violently. Ornate wallpaper blurred into sickly swirls, heirloom furniture twisted into cruel mockery. My children, flayed by those meant to love them, mere props in this grand theater of brutality. And my husband, the so-called arbiter of justice, stood by, complicit in silence. My love did not break. It calcified, drilling cold and merciless through my chest. I became purpose incarnate, a weapon honed for vengeance. I didn't confront. I didn't scream. I became a ghost in my own home, observing, learning, planning. The first step was my children. I took Sophia to a new therapist, one I paid for in cash from a secret account my mother had left me. I told Alastair it was for college anxiety. With Leo, I enrolled him in a weekend art intensive across town, a sanctuary. I held them at night, whispering the same mantra. This is not forever. I believe you. I am here. The mother in me built a fortress around their wounded souls. The strategist in me began to study the blueprints of the fortress that imprisoned us. My revenge would not be a knife in the dark. It would be a systemic collapse. I started with the foundation, money. The Hawthorne wealth was a carefully balanced ecosystem of old investments, trust funds, and philanthropic fronts. I began a clandestine education. I befriended Alastair's board, tech-savvy junior clerk, Ben, by bringing extravagant lunches lunches to the courthouse, flattered by the attention of a judge's wife. He didn't think twice about explaining, in layman's terms, how asset tracing worked, or the vulnerabilities of certain shell companies mentioned in Alastair's drunken boasts. Eleanor's pride was her charity, the Hawthorne Foundation for American Values. I volunteered with fanatical zeal, gaining access to their books. The values were a sham. I found discreet, recurring payments to a private detention center with a horrific abuse record, and grants to organizations that spewed the same kind of hateful rhetoric Eleanor used to criticize my heritage. I copied everything, every dubious transaction, every hypocritical grant. Silas's vice was respectability and a long-dormant lust. I hired a discreet, expensive private investigator. Within weeks, I had photos of Silas visiting a discreet apartment in a less gilded part of town, not for an affair, but for something he paid handsomely to keep secret: sessions with a dominatrix. The mighty Silas Hawthorne, patriarch of moral fortitude, paid to be humiliated. The irony was exquisite. For Alastair, the pillar of the law, I needed something that struck at his core, his judgment. I began recording our conversations. I'd gently steer him to talk about his cases after his third scotch. I got him, on tape, casually disparaging defendants based on their race, boasting about leaning on a fellow judge to rule a certain way on a developer's case. A developer who was a major donor to his father's foundation. It was a tapestry of minor corruptions, unethical musings, and blatant prejudice. The planning took a year of smiling at dinner while Silas held forth on the weakness in today's youth, a year of nodding as Eleanor critiqued Sophia's dress, a year of sharing a bed with a man I now saw as a moral vacuum. My love for my children was the fuel, but my hatred was the engine. D-Day was the annual Hawthorne Foundation Gala, the family's most public night of self-congratulation. The Great Hall was glittering with the city's elite. Alastair gave a speech on judicial integrity. Silas and Eleanor beamed, the epitome of genteel power. As dessert was served, the digital strike began. Ben, now my willing accomplice for a hefty payment and the thrill of it, executed the hack. Every screen in the venue, the large projector, the televisions in the bar, flickered. Alastair's face was replaced with scanned pages of Sophia's diary. Key passages flashed on screen, her handwriting magnified for all to see. Slavic blood, coarse, limp-wristed disappointment, I'd rather die. A stunned silence fell, broken by gasps. Then the screens split. On one side, the financial records of the American Values Foundation highlight the payments to the abusive detention center. On the other hand, a blurred but recognizable photo of Silas entering the apartment building, with a timestamp and the pie's dry caption. Weekly appointment, Madam X. Finally, audio clips of Alastair's drunken, bigoted courtroom commentary played through the state-of-the-art sound system. His voice, slurred and ugly, filled the room. Chaos erupted. I stood from my place at the family table. I looked at Alastair, his face ashen. I looked at Silas, whose bluster had collapsed into trembling shock. I looked at Eleanor, whose mask of perfection had cracked into a rictus of horror. I didn't say a word. I simply turned, walked to the back of the hall where Sophia and Leo stood, prearranged and waiting, and took their hands. We walked out of the gala, out of the gilded cage, into the clean night air. The fallout was nuclear. The story wasn't just local gossip. It was a viral scandal. The Hawthorne hypocrisy. The diary triggered a child welfare and police investigation. The financial records brought IRS and state attorney scrutiny. Silas's photos destroyed his reputation. He became a laughingstock. The Bar Association launched an ethics investigation into Alastair based on the tapes. I filed for divorce with a brutal, evidence-backed motion that painted him as an unfit father and accomplice to abuse. The prenuptial agreement, which I'd once seen as a chain, had a morality clause. My lawyer, the best I could buy with the money I'd siphoned, argued his complicity violated it. I got the house, a substantial settlement, and full custody. The final blow was a civil suit. Sophia and Leo, now empowered by therapy and safety, sued their grandparents for intentional infliction of emotional distress. The evidence was insurmountable. The settlement was confidential, but it was large enough to secure their futures: college, therapy, a fresh start, 10 times over. We sold the Georgian monstrosity. The three of us moved to a bright, airy loft in a city where no one knew the name Hawthorne. Leo's paintings now splash color on our walls. Sophia is studying psychology, determined to help other silent victims. The shadows in their eyes haven't fully disappeared, but they are receding, replaced by light and life. As for me, Anya Petrova, I am no longer the gentle mother. I am the mother who became a storm. I am the calm after that storm. I look at my children, not just surviving but thriving, and I feel no remorse for the ruin I left behind. They thought my love made me weak. They thought my accent made me simple. They were wrong. A mother's love is the most powerful force on earth, but cross her children. Then you meet her vengeance, and it is patient, it is precise, and it is absolute. If this story of resilience and retribution gripped you, please show your support. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification notification bell so you never miss a tale of justice served. We have more stories of secrets unveiled and hidden strength. Click the playlist on your screen for our Fierce Retribution series.